Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 369 of the Running for Real podcast. I am excited for you to join me today, and we have a fun conversation for you. I don't often feel like I immediately start a podcast and feel like I immediately can have banter with some people, especially when it's two people, but with my guest in general. And today was one of the exceptions to that. We jumped in right in, which you're going to hear, and had a laugh from the very beginning. We were laughing all the way through. Also got to learn a lot about making of movies, about what a director is and a producer is, which I didn't know. And so if you do know all about that, I apologize for my very simple questions with that. But I want to just mention to you a little bit about what this is. So Office Race is a movie available now on Comedy Central, which centers around an unambitious office worker who goes to great lengths, specifically a marathon, to defeat his exercise-obsessed, micromanaging boss. It's got some real actors in there who are big names, and it was just such a fun, enjoyable movie. Obviously a running movie, really done well, and you're going to get to hear some of the background behind how that came about. So without any further ado, let's go meet James Kilmoon and Jared Lapidus. Thank you to AG1 for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I have been using AG1 for, since 2019, which is coming up on 4 years now, and it's going to give you those essential nutrients for long-lasting benefits. I have been using this for many years, and especially right now with a book tour, with all these things I have going on in my life, my AG1 has been a critical piece of taking care of my gut health, giving me focus and energy to help me with healthy aging and my immune health. I love that it is one scoop in some water every morning. It is the first thing I do that's going to give me 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. It's that comprehensive nutrition in one simple scoop. It is a ritual that I have every morning. I wake up, that's the first thing I do, and I know that it takes care of me. So it's so much more than just taking greens, as you might hear other things talk about. It's going to give you that comprehensive blend of core health products that are going to work together to fill in your gaps. So for me right now, with 2 young kids and this hectic schedule, I am missing out on some nutrients, and this is where I know I'm taking care of myself in that way. So as a friend of mine, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 by going to drinkag1.com/Tina. That's drinkag1.com/Tina. It is going to make it so that you have one thing to take. It will take care of you. It'll be there for you. You can take it on the go. We're going to give you that 5 free travel packs when you go to drinkag1.com/Tina. I've been loving it for years. And those of you who have been signed up for a while would have seen that you got a goodie recently. Anyone who was an AG1 user when my book came out will know that you got a copy of the book as a gift from AG1, and that just speaks to the kind of people they are. They care about you, they care about me, and they care about the world. So go check it out at drinkag1.com/Tina. Jared, James, thank you so much for joining me on the Running for Real podcast. I'm excited that you both are here.
Thanks, Tina. We're excited to be here.
Thanks so much for having us, Tina.
So I hope you know this is going to be a podcast where I'm just going to ask you about running, and you have to get the correct answers or the interview ends immediately. Is that okay?
I'm just going to leave now.
Great.
I'll save everybody the trouble.
So I've kind of indicated that here. And I just asked you this before we started recording, but do either of you run?
Yes. One of us runs.
One of you runs. Let's see if we can guess which one runs. How how could I do this? See, because people can't see you. This is a podcast. So you're just going to have to own up. You can raise your hand and say, it's me. I admit.
Here. Yeah, I'll paint a picture. Jared looks like the Incredible Hulk after he transforms.
Yeah, he is busting out
and
his
I'm
shirt.
I'm the before Bruce Banner, more of like the scientist kind. But I failed science, I think. So yeah, that's me though.
And this is
the
James.
upper body athlete, and James is a lower body athlete. I think that's the nice dichotomy between the two.
Exactly.
I like that. So Jared,
hard to find good fin pants. Yeah.
Yes. So Jared, have you? I mean, obviously you've done like an odd fight. I'm assuming in the pandemic you did like an odd thing here and there. But like after working on what we're going to talk about in a minute, why aren't you a runner now?
It's a great question. I don't take my own advice, I guess. Running was never a thing that like appealed to me terribly. I tried it briefly while I was in college, while I was living with James. And not to like jump all over the map, but James and I were freshman year roommates at NYU, randomly assigned along with our other buddy, John Phillips, who I think you know and put this interview together. And James and John were running on the NYU cross country team. And we all became fast friends. And then I became friends with the larger cross country team. And so I think sophomore year, I tried to take on running for myself and like foolishly didn't ask anybody for advice and like very quickly gave myself shin splints. And I was like, this is not for me. And then sort of never looked back.
Oh.
But that was my brief foray into running.
You are like ripe for being converted to a runner. Like you got, I mean, the fact that you had college roommates who were runners on a team and you and you didn't take that moment. And now you've just, you've directed a movie about running.
That's right.
And written a movie about running. You're on a running podcast, so I feel like I'm tempted to kick you out of this interview right now because you should have
sign up for one on the podcast.
Yeah.
Sign up for a 5K right now.
What are you going to commit to right now?
I will commit to running or walking the Red Dress 5K in New Orleans again, which we did once, and I found that terribly enjoyable. So
Tell
I would
me
gladly
about
do
that.
that again.
What is that? I haven't heard.
That was great.
It's a 3K actually. I think
it's like
it's not quite a 5, or it might even be a little bit over 3K, but it's roughly a 3K around New Orleans. It's in August, so it's super hot down there in swampy New Orleans, and everybody wears a red dress, and they run, walk, and drink their way through like the Bourbon Street area, and like I forget where it ends at some big like park. Maybe they change it every year. I'm not sure, but it's a really fun event. And it's a charity run for a bunch of different charities. I think maybe it was like $30 or $50 to enter, but all that money gets dispersed to a bunch of different New Orleans charities. Too many to even list off the top of my head, but it's a really good, fun event. And then, Jared, you won that one, I believe, right? Is that accurate?
I did, yeah. I just flat out sprinted it, and nobody was prepared for that because everybody had bellies full of hot chili, which is what they serve before the race.
Wow, this sounds all kinds of painful.
You did finish behind people. I think, winning is more just having a good time at that one. So we're all winners of that event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
I'm going to add that to my bucket list. That sounds like fun.
It's a good one.
It's a must do. Yeah, it was a blast.
Okay. So now I've interviewed you, Jared. You can just leave the conversation. You're out now. No, I'm just kidding.
You've been great. Lovely to meet you, Tina.
Yes, I do want to give a bit more insight into what we're referring to here because, I've said directed, written a movie here. And so let's go ahead and introduce what that is. So, whoever wants to, I just told you two that I've just released a book, and it is really uncomfortable when someone says, whoever wants to say this, because I have a co-author and you're like, me? Who wants to talk here?
I think James should take the reins here and explain to the running community what this movie is.
James,
yes, I think
tell me about Office Race, please. Office
Race is a movie written for runners, written by at least one runner amongst our two. But it's a sports comedy that we wanted to make that was kind of like a sports comedy that we grew up on, whether it be Major League or Kingpin or Happy Gilmore. But obviously, as a runner, running is near and dear to my heart, and we wanted to set the comedy in that world. And so it's about a guy that's not a runner, played by Beck Bennett, who ends up running a marathon, or agreeing to run a marathon, let's say, to try to win over a client at work. And it becomes a winner-take-all event when he steals his charity's money to bet it up against his boss, played by Joel McHale. And then hilarity ensues, which is something you're never supposed to write when we write it out. So we always cross it out. You're never supposed to say it's funny. You have to show it. Mm-hmm. But for the podcast, I'll say that.
Yes, and I actually want to say so. So I did watch it. I loved it. I watched it with my husband last week, and
did he like it?
I did, and
did he like it too?
Did he like it? Yes, he did. Yeah, but like being from Britain, my comedy base, I suppose, is different to Americans. Like a lot of slapstick stuff, I do not find funny whatsoever. Like a lot of the comedy that people love over here. Like this one show, I'm not going to say the name of it because you probably are somehow involved with it, that people would always rave about. There's two actually that come to mind. And I just... Can I don't find Parks and Rec funny.
Okay.
And I don't find Arrested Development funny.
Okay.
So
now this is terrible. If you like our movie, now those fans are not going to watch our movie.
Well,
those are great shows. All great
that's
shows.
what I'm saying is that I don't know if it's the running piece.
That.
Like because it was about my thing. But yeah, for me, I'm quite a hard win over when it comes to American comedies. And I really did love this. I found it funny. And I really liked the messaging, which is again, Jared, why you should have been inspired to do this. I really like the message of just the power of doing something. It doesn't have to be running. And I guess maybe that's where for you, Jared, you do have some other way of doing this, but the power of doing something as a team and doing something for yourself and caring about yourself and the transformation that can occur throughout it. I mean, most runners, James, I'm sure you've seen many, have watched that happen before your eyes to someone. And yes, a lot of people who do that do end up with the shin splints or end up at the doctors who tell them you're not supposed to run. But I really loved that this got to show, the side of things when you do have people around you who can help you. So I did enjoy it. So long story short, thank you for this because it was great.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I got to ask, I know it's the question, and again, having just released a book myself, there's one question everyone always asks, and it's the same question I'm going to ask to you. Where did the idea come about? Because I got to know.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Jared, this one's you. Yeah, you got this one. I blew the first one, so you got this one.
No, you nailed it. It was perfect.
Oh, thanks.
So I'll try to make everything as runner centric as I can. But very long story. Hopefully, as short as I can make it. James and I have a sketch group called Reverse Cowboys. That's the two of us. ReverseCowboys.com if you want to check it out.
Yeah. You can tell we met in college by that sketch name.
Yeah.
Very sophomoric.
And you don't want to know what the other names we were considering were. We'll just bypass that. And so we were making YouTube sketches. We were partnered with Above Average, which is one of the production companies, one of the co-production companies on this film. They are owned by Broadway Video, which is Lauren Michaels' company. And this is going back to 2016. I was directing a short-form scripted series that was being co-produced by Above Average and Believe Entertainment, our other movie co-producer. And this scripted short-form series was a scripted poker series starring Chris Parnell from SNL, and it was a lot of fun, and it went really well. And so Brian at Believe Entertainment, president of Believe Entertainment, producer on that series, and then also our film, asked me if I'd be interested in developing a movie with him. And I said, yeah, sure. That's what I'd ultimately like to do. And he said, I've been sort of trying to find sort of a subculture with, sort of a wealth of participation and a lot of there's like a broad appeal. But that being said, like has yet to be exploited properly in the world of cinema. And he said, how do you feel about doing something in the world of running? And I said, I feel great about it. And not only that, my writing partner is a runner. And so that was the germ of an idea that sort of kicked off this 7-year odyssey that ultimately led to Run for the Money. And so, yeah, again, that was the fall of 2016. And then from there, we had a brainstorming session with the producers, and then James and I went off and we wrote 2 beat sheets for 2 different versions of the film. One was a Christopher Guest style mockumentary, and the other one was sort of more of a traditional scripted narrative. And we were initially leaning towards the Christopher Guest style version of the film because we figured that would just be much more producible. And we were thinking pretty small at that point. And then we took a look at both and said, let's just go for broke here. We really want to make a scripted narrative. And then James and I went off and wrote more or less a 20-page treatment for that screenplay and tried to raise a little bit of money to finance the writing of the screenplay, and couldn't do that. And then so we just wrote it on spec, and then just kept chipping away at it and evolving the draft. And then finally in 2019 felt like we had it at a place where we were excited to take it out to the industry at large and try to attach some talent. And initially we were an indie film and we were going to shoot in the fall of 2019. Couldn't put the money together. We said, let's push to 2020. COVID scuttled us. Then we found out Comedy Central was getting into the movie business. They took us on. We developed it with them for about 2 years, reconstituted the cast, and then finally got the green light to shoot it in the spring of 2023.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I have so many questions about this whole process, having never really had the opportunity to speak to people who have worked in comedy, particularly in terms of this side of things. But I first want to know, so, was this when you brought up the idea to Comedy Central of doing a movie about running, was that an easy sell?
It was interesting because it was pretty direct. In other words, we had worked with Comedy Central many times over the years, and we knew the folks over there, and we'd heard that they were getting into the movie business. And so we just sent them the script, or our producer sent them the script, and they read it and loved it and said, we'd like to make this with you. And we were sort of off to the races from there. I think their plan was to get into production much more quickly than we wound up getting into production, unfortunately. There was some restructuring that happened shortly thereafter, and we started, losing our cast due to scheduling conflicts and otherwise. And so there were all kinds of impediments over the following 2 years that sort of stood in the way of actually getting it going. But I mean, they were extremely receptive to the script and the storyline and the themes behind it from the get-go. I mean, they basically said, like, this is exactly what we're looking for. Not specifically the running world, but sort of an ensemble, broad comedy of the sort that they don't typically make anymore.
Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast, and for finally getting me to a place where I feel confident in my fueling and my hydration strategy. And as someone who ran at the world-class level and realizes how much she left on the table in her former life by not getting those 2 things ready, I want to tell you, if you care about your upcoming goal, do not hold off on this. This is something you want to get dialed at this point, not in the few weeks to go, not in the month to go. You want to build it up now so you have time to practice. And I want to encourage you on that note to go check out their fuel and hydration planner, which is free. You do not have to use Precision products to use it. I definitely encourage you to go check that out. There is a link in the show notes so you can yourself figure out how much carb, fluids, sodium you need to perform at your best in your key runs. So go check out that link in the show notes. You can also go to precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina. That is going to auto apply a 15% discount code, or you can use the code Tina sent me if you want to just use the discount code yourself. I want to encourage you to go check out the gels. I am someone, I have a funny thing with textures. I really don't like a lot of the gels on the market, but I love Precision because it goes down very easy. That gel is something I've never had a problem with in terms of stomach upsets. I take it down in one go. It's not something I have to take my time with and struggle through. I really enjoy taking them, especially when I alternate with the chews. I love the lemon and mint combination of flavors there. And with the gels, you can get a caffeinated version or a non-caffeinated version, depending on what you need. And I love that there is a high carb content in there of 30 grams of carb per product. In addition to that, they do have the hydration products with electrolytes. Depending on your sweat rate and the strength that you need, you can get yourself any of those. I have been using those throughout the summer and really enjoying using them. So again, go to precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina or use code Tina sent me to get 15% off, and go check out that planner. It is free. It is there for you to use. It is in the show note. Go check it out. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I the running community, as James, you can probably speak to yourself, is very like contained and self, almost like we're just very obsessed with the sport, and triathletes are kind of the same, which I like that you kind of brought triathlon into it. So you like just like pull those people over as well. But it was very well done in terms of showing how much it can take over people's lives. I find as someone who owns a business and in running and has this podcast around running, when I say it to people who don't run, they're like, but what do you do? Teach people how to run? I'm like, no, actually runners like really want everything and anything they could possibly get around running, to learn about running, to watch running, to do running. And it is a very strange world to come from. So I know we love any time that our sport is featured, but James, as you know, usually when running is featured, it's like someone who is like prancing in a very awkward running form across the ground, and you can tell that they have never run a step in their life, and they're like this big runner, but you're like, yeah, not really believable.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was definitely a thing we were cognizant of with filming, and I know our cast, who was just awesome across the board. I mean, like some people were runners before, some people weren't, but everyone was I was, I guess, like our running expert on set. So people would ask me different little tips about like how their stride looks, or, different stretches they could do that runners actually do. And our props department also when we're hiring like the crew and stuff for this movie, we really want people that had like a personal connection to it. It's like our props department, our props mistress, Rebecca Kenyon's like a big runner, and she's like, don't worry about it, I've got everything. So she had the sticks, like the lacrosse balls, like, the golf ball, like all the different size balls you'd roll out for your feet, like all that. And so like little like drips and drops of this come out throughout the movie, and you kind of notice it like in the background stuff. But we really wanted it to feel authentic. And then in terms of filming it, so like we wanted the running to look real. And it's very hard to do, even with like, we had this giant, they call it like a grip tricks truck. Okay. So it's this big rig, has cameras shooting out of the back, and like a big arm on the side to cover with it. It comes out, has a camera coming at another angle. And, one of the issues is like, if you want to do multiple takes, if a scene takes place over the course of 90 seconds, and you have to reset and go back all the way to the beginning and come back. And also, you focus on the acting and the running and stuff. And it's, it's definitely a bit of a dance, but the actors did a wonderful job. And it was just a real balance of trying to find what looked like a good casual distance run pace while they're having these scenes, and didn't seem like they were either, because the thing that bugs me sometimes is when it's like a distance runner movie and like people are just sprinting about the whole time, and we only see like their sprints and stuff like that. And we do have like, there's scenes of Beck like sprinting, and Jared had a great line about this, but I was like, is he going too fast? And Jared's like, well, on a distance run, would you ever like do a surge? I'm like, yeah, if it was like a fartlek run or a tempo. He's like, great. So that's what he's doing. And he's like, that's this one. Yeah. But like, we'll show him cool down. So he'll do like a surge, and then you'll see him slow down when he meets up with like this run where he has with Kylie Bunbury's character, Julie, and you see him slow down and get to like, what's a more normal, 7:38 minute pace or something like that. Distance run. Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed it. So the pieces of it, like the details around running. I want to know then, I know this is probably questions you get all the time, but I said to you I was going to ask you this beforehand. Before we go any further, I get so confused by all the people involved with making a movie. And can you explain, Jared, for me, what is the difference between a director, a producer, an executive director, executive producer? Tell me, can you enlighten me to that?
Sure. So the directing role is sort of the chief creative officer, in the sense that they're in charge of all of the creative decision making on set. Okay. And so, ideally, all of that work is delegated to your various department heads, to your director of photography, to your production designer, to your props department, to your the camera operators, and everybody's a specialist in their own regard, and you're sort of the editor in chief of ideas, basically. And you're responsible for effectively translating the blueprint that is the script into the audiovisual medium that is the movie. The producer is in charge of basically the behind the scenes, bringing that all to life. And so we had three producers on this film, and they did a very nice job of sort of dividing the labor between the three of them. But a lot of it is sort of high level, like attaching the cast or liaising with the agents or managers, or talking to the studio. Negotiating rates, and bringing on coordinating interviews for other department heads. And I would analogize it to like something that people can often relate to is like a wedding planner. A wedding planner is basically a producer, and they're responsible for basically coordinating all of the different vendors to arrive on the day at a specific time with the right gear, set it up, have it all ready to go at this time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very logistics based job, but there's also a ton of creativity involved. And some producers, regard themselves as more creative producer types, where they're there to creatively problem solve, things as they come up. Or, for instance, like one of our producers who I mentioned earlier, Brian, who had the initial kernel of an idea for a movie set in the running world, Brian was sort of dead set on getting original songs made for the film in the style of what they would used to do in the 80s and 90s, which would be sort of like a holiday road from the vacation films, or what's another one? Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone from Top Gun, or even My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. That just the movie song tie-in used to be a real thing, and the movie soundtrack is a big deal. And since we're sort of homaging and harkening back to films of that era, Brian had the brilliant idea of trying to get a pop star basically attached to the film, and so he, again, sort of in a creative producer capacity, used whatever resources he had to get in touch with some folks. And he managed to get the script into the hands of Bryan Adams, who read the script, loved it. We were hoping to get a song out of him. He wound up writing 2 songs for the film, both of which are featured. It's insane. He also took it upon himself to make music videos for the songs, and he put them on his YouTube channel, so you can take a look at those music videos now.
Yeah,
which is a lot of fun. And they're great. Bryan Adams, one's sort of more of like a pop anthem, and the other one's more of like a somber ballad, but they're really great songs in their own right. And he did a really nice job incorporating the themes of the movie and the themes of Pat into the lyrics. There's a couple of fun Fast and Furious references in there, which is sort of a runner throughout the film, which is really nice. But then just to finish answering your question, so the executive producer role is a little bit more vague and ambiguous, and it's kind of a bargaining chip. Like there can be strings attached. In other words, like the executive producer, often has oversight capacity and can weigh in on creative decisions, et cetera. But it can also be like a vanity credit given to somebody who brings money to the table, or brings a key piece of talent to the table, or brings a key location to the table. So it's less specific than the director or producer or writer roles are, which are like, have parameters attached or associated with them, whereas the executive producer is a bit vaguer. And interestingly enough, it's a little bit different because in like the television world, the executive producer is sort of the top dog, whereas in like the film world, it sounds like a really big credit, but it's mostly like a vanity credit in that regard. It doesn't come with any real like attendant power, if you will.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Thank you for explaining that. I've always wondered, and it's helpful to like have it. You gave some analogies there and have it broken down in that way. And then with the writing process, James, if you could explain, how does that come about in terms of, is this you two sitting together physically working on this? Are you passing drafts of, I'm in the book world, chapters, or are you like of scenes? How does that work with the writing?
Yeah, I mean, so me and Jared also lived together when we started writing this. So, I mean, we were college roommates. So we lived together 3 out of 4 years of college, and then we lived together most of our lives after college
Oh,
too.
I
So
love that.
we were just together most of the time. So yeah, we actually will sit down and write together. I mean, the first step we have is we kind of outline everything. So you just more or less make a beat sheet, and you go through and like kind of before you sit down and get to the script itself, you just like outline it. It's your blueprint basically, and then you'll start diving in. And we write together a good amount, and then we'll sometimes refine on our own or take cracks at something on our own. Sometimes it's funny, like now it's actually gotten a lot easier with Zoom and everything. But when we wrote this script, it was like pre-Zoom ish. So it would be like on the phone talking to each other, but looking at like there's a collaboration function on our script writing software called Final Draft. So we would be doing that. I remember we had a deadline at one point. I don't know if it was self-imposed or not, but like I just remember being in Baltimore and like working on this with you in New York. And we were, so like, yeah, we'll just jam on stuff together a lot, but like, yeah, and then, I mean, the writing process, you could almost call it the editing process. Cause it's like, you write it once and you get this big for us, it was like 140-page draft almost. And we're like, well, that's way too long for a comedy. We want it to be like 90 minutes, and it's usually about a page per minute. So then we kind of kept whittling it down, cutting characters, combining characters, cutting scenes, as they call it in the writing world, like killing your darlings. It's like, all right, this is a really good joke, but do we need it? Does it move the story along? Like, there's only so much space. And then then when you're actually like, oh, we actually want to make this thing, and you need to think about production elements where it's like, great, the running team used to be much bigger, like an actual, like a college or high school cross country team, or like a real charity run team. We're like, yeah, we would never be able to afford all those actors. So it's like, cut it down to like, a much smaller team. So yeah, that's all that stuff kind of starts making its way into the writing process. But yeah, I know other people work differently, but we kind of, that's the way we do it.
Okay. And what is has your running itself taught you anything that you have used within your writing and your work?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to me, it's like everything I've done professionally, I can kind of tie back to running in a way. So like, so me and Jared, like you mentioned, we're roommates at NYU. But I graduated, I was a history major. So I wasn't, which meant like I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do when I graduated college. And so initially when I graduated, I started coaching at NYU while I figured it out. I liked coaching. I knew I enjoyed running, but I didn't think I wanted to be like a full-time college coach. And then as I was, really figuring it out, I started writing. I was like continuing to write like little comedic pieces with my friend and my buddy Al Thompson, who actually he plays one of Joel McHale's cronies in the film. He plays Doc Chad 3000, one of the guys who emerges from the water with him. I was working on something with him, and a few of the other writers in the room took classes at Upright Citizens Brigade in the city, where you can take sketch and improv classes. And I was like, all right, well, I have summers off from coaching. Let me go and start taking classes. And I fell in love with it there. So yeah, even though I went to NYU, I wasn't in the film school. I got into it all right after that. And basically once I knew I loved like improv and sketch and doing stuff at UCB, kind of the same way as running, to finally get back to your question, is like the thing you have to do is show up every day and you just do it. And like, when you start, you suck. Or like, even though like with running, like, it might be like, oh, I feel like I might be good at this eventually, or just enjoy it. It's probably more so it's like, oh, I just enjoy doing it. I mean, even though I might not be good enough to where I want to get on stage and show anybody this, like I might not know same thing. I might not want to enter a race right now or do anything, but it's like, eventually I would like to do that. So just kind of, for me with comedy, it was like, all right, I was taking a bunch of classes. You form your own indie teams. Eventually you got put on stage by the theater and stuff. And those all felt like, like big moments for me, but it was really just like, I was like, all right, you just need to show up every day, practice every day, go see shows every day. Eventually as you get more and more into writing, it's write every day. And then as you finish the script, it's edit every day. It's like, if you just keep doing it, you'll get better at it. And like, it's the same thing. There are days, trust me, I know you don't want to run every day, but but you do, but you don't. And same thing with writing. It's like, I don't want to do this, but I know I need to do it. It's like, you just need to show up, make yourself available for your work and your passions. And, eventually it kind of takes care of itself, because you're doing it. But, there's like, those are like things where it's like, I'm just like, in my head, I've never shared this with anyone, but it's like, I'll have like things where it's like, I call like a track team promise. Cause it's like, all right, I know I'm not missing practice. So it's like writing, like that's like a track team promise. Like I'm showing up, I'm getting that done. Like you can't miss it. Sometimes people are like, I promised to do it. It's like, I missed it. I'm sorry. I'll make up for it. But these are things, it's like, that's like practice. You can't miss practice. Or if you do, you have to run later or whatever. So yeah, I think it's definitely running's affected my own work outlook.
Yeah, well, and that message was kind of put throughout the movie in just the journey of Pat with his, he did that exactly, right? Showing up every day, even when he didn't want to, even, got it in, found a way. That's kind of the message throughout, which was good. And Jared, for you, tell us about, to get to this moment. Obviously you don't have to tie it into running itself, but were you in school, and I don't know, is NYU like a film school? Like is NYU known for something related to that? So maybe start with that.
Pretty much number one, or number two. Sorry, I'll throw that out there for you, Jared. It's up there though. But yeah,
wait, who's the other one that's competing against?
USC.
USC are the
okay.
Yeah, I think those are generally regarded as like the top dogs in the film school world.
Okay.
And they have very different sort of ethos in their approach, or at the very least, like from the outside looking in, because I didn't go to USC, but I was in the NYU Film School. It seemed like, I guess the word on the street, or what I'd been told, was that USC focuses more on like traditional studio filmmaking. I shouldn't say traditional, but more the studio environment, and sort of preparing you for sort of entree into that larger ecosystem, versus NYU, which maybe attracted more students who were inclined towards independent film or tour cinema, that sort of thing, experimental film, that style. And I don't know if I was necessarily attracted more to that sort of filmmaking, but I was definitely attracted more to New York City, and always have been, than Los Angeles. I love LA. I love visiting. I'm out there all the time, but New York is my home, and has been for over 20 years at this point. It's the proposition of going to school in the Village in Manhattan and making films with other like-minded cinephiles was really exciting to me. And so that's what I did. And I was very thankful and lucky to get into school there. And it was a really interesting environment where it was simultaneously collaborative and also extremely competitive. Like you're, on set all the time with your friends and working intimately with them. And, you're trying to make their projects better, but at the same time, everybody's sort of in their own way trying to outdo one another, or one up one another, or make their films like a little bit bigger or better than everybody else. And so I think that sort of environment, that sort of pressure cooker, yields a ton of great work, and you learn very, very quickly, which was really cool. And so I personally got a lot more out of just working on other students' sets than I did in the classes per se. There were a number of great classes, but I mean, you can learn, as much in a day on set as you can in I would say, weeks in a class, or even maybe a full semester, depending on the class and the professor. I mean, I got out of school and I was a little bit of an odd duck in the sense that I wanted to be in the comedy world at NYU, which is a little bit unusual, and I didn't really know how to get into it per se. And so I got out of school, and my first opportunities were in the documentary field and the human rights field. And so I did some work in that regard, and I was very proud of it. And, you're also getting out of school, you're young, you're naive, you're idealistic, you want to, make an impact. And so that's the sort of work that I was doing. I was very pleased to do it, but at the same time, I knew earning a living in that field would be really challenging. And Also, it's, I think, equally important to figure out what you don't want to do as it is to help sort of align and steer the car towards what you actually do want to do. So I'm very, again, happy to have had that experience and happy to learn that I didn't want to do it full time or long term. And so I was just trying to figure out a way into the comedy world. And, I was very much on the outside looking in and didn't really know anybody, but slowly but surely met people, started making things, a lot of stuff that, I'm proud of, but, didn't work for one reason or another. But finally, the thing that thankfully worked for both James and myself were these sketches that we made as Reverse Cowboys, the aforementioned Reverse Cowboys. But those sketches, basically the intention was we'll have total creative freedom and creative control to make these sketches, and we self-finance them. And the goal was to basically do one a month. And try to make them as more or less television ready as we could, given our, meager resources and budget and whatnot. But I think we did a pretty decent job with them, and they wound up doing well in terms of attracting, decent online viewership. And that sort of started turning the wheels for us in terms of getting interest from the industry.
Yeah.
And, that sort of led to web series, which led to branded content, which led to television opportunities for James and myself. And James was hired as a writer on Impractical Jokers, and you've been there since fall of 2013. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like a decade.
So it's still there now?
Yeah, I think so. We don't know. We're in between seasons, and there's like more or less like everything's down right now, but we'll see.
Yes.
Hopefully. It's a great show. Great show.
Yeah.
But so those sketches sort of did what we were hoping they would do in terms of like providing us access and entree into the industry. And so again, that sort of gave me a television directing career and a commercial directing career, which I'm very thankful for. And now a film career, which we're both super excited about, and we'll hopefully be able to parlay this movie into the next one. And hopefully the next one doesn't take 7 years to make happen. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit quicker. But, I think there is something to be said for just gestation in terms of a script and not rushing it and spending time really developing it and crafting it and honing it. I think it definitely needed a few years in the oven before it was, really ready for prime time. And so, endless lessons learned on this one.
Thank you to Tracksmith for all your support with everything that I am doing with Running for Real and beyond. I am so thankful for this relationship that I have with this brand. And I do call it a relationship intentionally. If you have seen about my book event that I hosted in Boston just recently, you will see that I called this a relationship. It is not transactional. It is not you do this, I'll do this. We have a friendship. We're besties, and there is with good reason, because I believe in all that Tracksmith is giving to our community to make our world better. They do so many different things within the community to show support, to put their money where their mouth is and care, because now we want to find brands that care about our world and want to make the world a better place. And Tracksmith is that company. In addition, of course, to making incredibly high quality products that are long lasting. And that is one of the biggest things we can do if you want to make changes to be environmentally conscious, is to get quality items that last a long time and can handle the toughness of the way that we as runners treat our clothes. I want to just tell you about a few of my favorite items. The Lane 5 shorts are my favorite shorts. I know I always talked about the Session Speed shorts. I think I've shifted to the Lane 5. They have 5 pockets. They are perfect for marathon racing or ultra racing. One of those is zip pockets. The others are perfect for gels. They sit nicely. They do not ride up, and they are just very comfortable. So those Lane 5 shorts I am really enjoying. We are also just about stepping into the stage where my fave item of all time with Tracksmith, the Brighton base layer, is just coming into its own. This is the number one product I recommend for people who are new to Tracksmith, the Brighton base layer. It is ideal for fall, ideal for winter, ideal for just taking with you anywhere. I do take it on most trips that I go on. So as a friend of mine, if you have never used Tracksmith before, you can use code TINANEW to get yourself $15 off your order of $75 or more. If you are a current Tracksmith customer, you can use code TINAGIVE, and that will give you free shipping, and you will make a donation to Track Girls on behalf of yourself to show your support. So thank you so much to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode, for supporting me. I encourage you to go check it out at tracksmith.com/Tina. Yeah, that brings up so many interesting things that remind me of, so my co-author for my book is, she does improv, and she always talks about how she loves the like instant feedback that she gets through that. Like there's no she's the editor-in-chief of 2 running magazines, and she kind of has to put something out and see how people react to it and engage with that. But she said she finds it really powerful to just sit to do this improv and then just know immediately. So James, I'm assuming you definitely understand that feeling. But as you mentioned, Jared, it's also important. We're in such a like rush, go kind of lifestyle nowadays, that we do need the other side of that, being that we live in this middle zone that's not instant feedback, and it's not like delayed or having time to gestate, as you said, but we do need both ends of those, more of it, to really get the the beauty of these different types of creative outlets that we have. So yeah, James, I'd love any thoughts you have on that with regards to what Jared was saying there.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. And I definitely agree. Like improv's the best. And if you enjoy doing it, it's just so fun. You do get that instant reaction. You're kind of making something with the audience, because when they laugh at something, it lets you and your teammates know that like, oh, this is hitting. And now it can kind of, you kind of create on in that space. But I would say, for like on the movie front, and like it reminds me more of like doing like, or the thing I guess like where I would think like in terms of like lessons learned from next time, or anything we're talking about like for that was on this one, we never really got like a table read. We got one, but it was over Zoom, and it wasn't really like any time to change the script much.
And explain to me what a table read is. Sure.
That's you get all the actors together, and it's really just that you sit at a table and you read it through. And that is more like when it reminds me of like my old like sketch theater days, where you put up a sketch probably like 6 times before it goes up in front of an audience. And after every round, you're editing. And I loved that process. And it's really like, it's fun. And it's that thing of like, you're kind of doing everything like, privately with you and your crew. And this joke that you thought was really going to hit doesn't hit. And you're like, okay, well, change. Like that's easy enough to change and do that. And so I know like I've heard of test screenings and stuff. We've never had that, or like, cause you can also change things in the edit process and stuff. After a test screening, like, oh, this didn't play, we can go ahead and tinker there. We did a little bit of that off the table read, but we only had 2 of the actors there at the time. And then we had like a couple of our friends reading every other part of the movie, doing different accents and voices and stuff like that, which is really, really fun. It's like always great to hear the work out loud, but anytime you can get more of that, the better your work is going to come out. It's just, that's the thing with like comedy. Like it's, things could be really hitting for me and Jared as we're reading it back and forth. And then, you can get it up on its feet and it changes, and you're just like, all right, well, as much as we love it, that's again, going back to kill your darlings. It's like, well, that's got to go in favor of something else. And then you try that and it's like, great. Now this one hit. And now we can move on. Cause we're kind of always counting, we are always counting laughs per page. And so unless it's like a heart moment where you're not necessarily looking for that, but if you kind of know you're in a bad spot, if you're looking at your script and you're like, well, I don't have any check marks here for laughs.
Wow.
So as much as we like this, it needs to get edited. And then you go back and you refine and you refine and you refine.
So interesting. Jared, anything to add?
Just on what James is saying in terms of the audience response. And I mean, you can do your best to try to predict what's going to hit. I mean, it's obviously very important to follow your instincts and, let that be your guide. And ultimately that's also what's going to provide you with inspiration. But at the same time, it's really funny to play this movie for an audience, and stuff that we thought were like total throwaways or like barely laugh lines will get the hardest laughs. We're like, that's interesting. Noted. We'll try to keep that in mind for the next one. So that's been super interesting. I guess social science in a way. And also, I mean, the film plays differently, unsurprisingly, in a theatrical environment than it does, somebody watching at home, sort of not being prompted to laugh. And so we've had, thankfully, the film is a Comedy Central original. So it's made to air on television, and then it'll hopefully, it'll be available for purchase as a standalone movie on September 18th. So 4 days from now on, all the platforms. So Prime and Google Play and all that good stuff. But then hopefully in Q1 next year, it'll go on over to a streaming service, or hopefully soon enough. And, we've had the chance to put together a few screenings with a live theatrical audience. And it's just so fun to, sort of sit in the back and listen to the pops of laughter, especially when you're expecting it. It's like, and 3, 2, 1, and then everybody laughs. And it's like, great. Okay, awesome. That worked out really well. And then you'll get other laughs on places that you didn't even regard as laugh lines, or things that you thought weren't, the strongest of jokes will resonate the hardest. So that's a really interesting thing. And then you sort of have to go back and think about, like, wait, why did that hit so hard? What was it about this particular moment? And then try to reverse engineer it so that maybe you can duplicate it for the next one, that sort of thing.
That's fascinating. Yeah. And is this for both of you? Forgive me if I didn't see this is this like the first kind of big one that you've got onto a Comedy Central, like a full movie length?
Yeah.
This is our first feature film.
So how does that feel? Yeah. Tell me, both of you, how that feels to, like, are you able to celebrate that? Or is it like you already talked about for the next one? Like, is it we in general struggle to acknowledge and soak in our achievements before we're already like next? So,
I mean,
James, go.
Well, this one has a bit of, and probably a good part to bring this up, but just to speak to it, this one had a bit of a muted celebration, just because the film world, we have a double strike going on right now. There's a SAG strike and a WGA strike. Speak to WGA for a second. So we're actually allowed to do our own press as long as the studio doesn't set it up.
Right.
So me and Jared hired our own PR company, and so podcasts like this one, we reached out on our own and we were able to do, because writers can do their own press, actors can't do any press. It's like our actors who are wonderful and are like, dying to be able to push this movie, they can't do anything right now. And so we couldn't do any big premiere or anything like that. We've done private viewings with, like, I filmed it for the NYU, like the current NYU track team, because we're alums, and nice. I wanted to show them. And so they got a kick out of it. And we flew down to Atlanta to watch it with the crew as well, just, to do that. So those both felt really fun and were great. But we were never able to have that, like, really big, like, this is it moment that we necessarily thought we would have. But overall, it is like, so we're just, I'm just so proud of this movie, and like that we're able to do it, and the product itself. It definitely calls for celebration and stuff. But it unfortunately there's a bit of
like a bittersweet,
a muted part to it.
Yeah, I could see that, and it's obviously difficult because you're in it, and and it's not, not like it's anything that seems like it's going to calm down anytime soon. So, it could suck out all your celebration if you let it. So it sounds like you've got good balance there. And Jared, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's the circumstances are unfortunate, but at the same time, counting my blessings, or our blessings, that we were able to just get it made. And thankfully, we didn't, the timing was such that the strikes happened. We shot before the strikes, and so we didn't get shut down or delayed any further. I mean, we'd had so many delays, across so many years of trying to get this film made. And so thankfully we managed to sort of sneak it in there in sort of a window that worked. before things got shut down again. So, my heart goes out to all of the productions that, were shut down or delayed indefinitely because of the strikes. So I'm just thankful that we got it made. It's, as James was saying, unfortunate that we don't get to have that sort of cathartic premiere and the opportunity to watch it with the cast and celebrate the achievement for a moment and have that sort of stamp of finality to it. But we got, or as James was saying, our own version of that. We were just down in Atlanta screening the film for the Atlanta Track Club, and we shot the film in Atlanta, and thankfully a lot of the crew came out, and it was really nice to be able to share and experience the film with them. And that was, the closest thing we'll have to a premiere. So that was a really special moment and sort of a nice full circle. It provided closure, I think, on the whole thing, which was great.
Mm-hmm. So wait, was the sweet peach, was that an ode to Peachtree?
Yeah.
I wondered that, but I was like, is that just like a weird coincidence? Okay.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, everything is peach related. Yeah. And so we sort of wore the Atlanta, on our sleeves in the sense that this needed to be localized somewhere, but we didn't want to get too specific with it. Yeah. So we shot the film sort of south of Atlanta proper. We were in Fayetteville and Peachtree City and Sonoya. And so, originally going back to 2019 when the film was in Indy, we were going to shoot it in the Hudson Valley, and it was going to be the Sugar Maple Marathon. And then, we just had to relocalize it basically to Greater Atlanta, and then it became the Sweet Peach.
Yeah, and we have the original Peachtree Road Race winner, I believe, Mr. Jeff Galloway in the movie. I think he won the first one. I'm not positive. Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I like that you included Jeff in there. That was fun.
We were relieved to get him in there. It was an honor.
He's amazing. What was the other thing I was going to say about that? About the Peachtree. I did wonder that when I saw it. I had a really good question about something about that.
Is Jared going to run it next year? Is that your question? My answer is yes.
You should run Peachtree.
10K, man. You can do 10K.
You can do 10K. I ran it last year with a friend, so I don't know what. I'm assuming John hasn't told you anything. By the way, John and I are good friends, so I want to get some insights on John, but I'm going to save that for out of the conversation.
No, put it on air. I'll blast him.
Yeah.
Let's tell him his most embarrassing moments.
Yes, please do. I want to know.
Did you recognize John in the film?
John Phillips?
Yeah.
He was in it?
Yeah. What? He's Olivia's friend in the marathon. A non-speaking role.
Where Spencer runs by.
I completely missed that. I am going to go back and watch that.
You got to go back and rewatch it.
How did he not tell me that?
I think you want to be surprised.
It took him weeks to emerge from character on that film. Yeah. He's decked out and he's peacocking a bit.
We had a bunch of my old teammates. And our friends, my old teammates, like down there in the movie. We got a guy that used to race against Mike Kerrigan, who's a sub 4 miler from Villanova. He's the guy that Joel McHale pushes when he's like at the start corral.
Yes.
He's also a featured race walker in some of the TV news coverage of the race walking start line.
Oh, interesting. And I remembered what the last thing I was going to say is I loved that I saw some Achilles banners in the back. That made me very happy as someone who, I run as a guide for Achilles quite a bit. So that made my heart happy that I could see the Achilles, posters in the background at the.
That's great. Yeah, we tried to get some real running organizations that you see at every marathon, Achilles International, and then we had Team in Training, Team Teal. Be the Match was down there. We had a bunch in there that were really generous and just donated tents and jerseys and all that just to make it feel like a real race. Yeah, which is super cool. And the Atlanta Track Club as well. Yeah, they donated a bunch of their Peachy the Peach, or is it Pete the Peach? Pete the Peach is down there.
Shout out to Jay Holder over at the Atlanta Track Club for.
I love Jay.
Being unbelievably helpful, both with the production of the film and then also with the screening that we just had over there. Yeah, they've been really great.
You 100 million% need to do Peachtree next year. And that's what I was going to say is that, so I was a former elite pro runner And I am now like out of that world, but I did Peachtree last year with a friend, and I ate donuts on the course. I ate watermelon. I drank beer, which I've never done in my running. So you can, if you want to do it that way, then I'll be down there. So I'll come down there with you and we can run it together and do your first 10K. You shake on it with me right now. I'm holding my hand.
Yeah.
Put your hand up. Okay, we're shaking. James is our witness.
Oh yeah, I'm in. Yeah, of course. I'm just a witness. I'll come watch.
You're in too. You're a guarantee. You're like, that's not a big deal for you, but you just watch that.
There we go.
Okay, that's happening next year.
It sounds great. I also have to mention my father-in-law, Tom Sabulis, is a 17-time marathon runner, and he's very active in the running community down in Atlanta, and so I'm sure he'll be happy to join as well.
Okay. You are a very strange case that you have not started running yet. I don't understand how you're not a runner yet.
July 4th in Atlanta.
That'll be day one.
Perfect first race.
Yes. Okay.
Is that what it is, July 4th?
It is?
Yeah, man, nice and hot.
Yeah. I prefer a nice balmy, yeah.
Yeah, you get a good sweat on that day for sure. Anything else you want to share about the movie or about your journeys before we wrap here?
I'm realizing that as I was providing very brief and all too simplified definitions of the roles for director, producer, executive producer, I failed to mention sort of the primary role of the director, which is to direct the actors on set. So the director is the person, basically giving notes and adjustments to the actors and trying to shape the performances and sculpt the performances, as well as basically, but your job as a director, you're directing the actors and you're directing the camera, and the camera can be considered another character in the film, and the eye through which the audience views and experiences the movie. So being able to speak the language of the camera and the cinematographer, as well as speak the language of the actor, are two very important skill sets to have as a director as well. If you want to, just cut that in to about 30 minutes ago.
Well, as long as you only forgot today, you didn't forget when you were actually doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see you do any of that. I don't know what you're talking about.
I only realized it after we were done with the movie. I was like, crap, I should have been doing that all.
Should have directed them. They were so good naturally, which they really were. Our cast was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
We got so outrageously lucky with all our cast, and they were all extraordinary and brought so many ideas to set, and it honestly took all of the weight off of my shoulders in terms of having to direct them.
Amazing.
And I'm so thankful because we had no time to make this movie in the grand scheme. This won't mean a ton to you, not sort of being intimately familiar with the filmmaking process, but we had 20 days to make this movie, which is not a lot.
I would know that's not a lot. Yeah. Wow.
And so without having such unbelievably seasoned actors as we did, it could have been even more challenging than it was. And they all just showed up to set, not only knowing the material cold, which is, you'd be surprised at how often that's not the case, but coming with so many ideas of their own, and they're all such wonderful improvisers in their own right, and they were able to, ground the scenes and find new jokes and new bits and gags and just play with it and have fun and elevate the material so much further than from what was on the page. So
awesome.
We were really lucky.
Awesome.
Yeah, and to bring the running into it a little bit with our actors, Joel ran the LA Marathon in 3:06 or 3:07.
Wow,
so it's pretty great for a big guy like himself, former football player. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think any other running tidbits that people might be interested in. We had to keep rewriting the beer mile time because we have a bit in there where the guy sets the world record.
Yeah.
I think Corey Bellamore kept resetting it. So then we just dropped it down to something like, all right, I don't think he'll hit this yet. So it's down to a 4:24, which is absurd.
Yeah, I like that you include that. Yeah, that's crazy.
We were hoping that beer mile scene would get picked up by Runner's World or some other running outlet, and just sort of passed around the running community. And Comedy Central put it up as an unlisted YouTube link that I think It's hard to find. Yeah, impossible, some might say.
Yeah. Isn't that the point of unlisted?
Share it. Yeah, exactly. I think we can share it with you.
I'm happy to share it out.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
By all means.
Yeah, no, I'm happy.
Just like hide it somewhere though. Don't show other people. Make it like unlisted or private or something like that. Yeah, we don't.
We want as few people to see this movie as possible. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Whatever you want. If that's the game you want to play, sure. Thank you both so much for joining me. This was such an enjoyable conversation. I appreciate what you've done here. I mean, James, you know this, that the running community is just going to love that we have our movie. When that movie, what was it called? The one about the woman running New York.
Brittany runs a marathon.
Yes, that was like everyone really went crazy for that. And this is obviously a different style, but really runners love it. So I appreciate you both, all the work you've done. And thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Tina.
This was a blast.
Appreciate it.
Great chatting with you.
The Running for Real podcast and everything we do here at Running for Real would not be possible if it wasn't for the Running for Real team. While I am the person who you hear from most often and maybe the face of the brand, the rest of our team are such critical pieces of what we do. And without them, I think I'd just be running around in circles with ideas. So I want to take a moment to thank our team. To Jeremy Nessel, who's been with me since the very beginning. Kat McKay, Sally Pontarelli, Kelsey Wang, Sandy Gutierrez, Louise Murphy, Andrew Basola, Alexandria Will, and Maria Vargas. Thank you to each and every one of you for all that you give to Running for Real and our community. I appreciate you, and I'm so thankful for having you as a part of the team. What a fun conversation with Jared and James. I really enjoyed that one. And I really enjoyed the movie. As I told you, I'm not a typical American comedy kind of person, but I really did enjoy this. And I think you will too. So if you have Comedy Central, be sure to go check it out. As I said, it is available now for you to purchase if you do not have that. Or you can also find it on the streaming services. But be sure to check it out. It's just a really fun one. We want to get more running movies made, right? So the more buzz we can build around it, the more the industry will see that running movies are the way to go. I want to take a moment to remind you to go check out the link in the show notes. There will be links to go check out more about Office Race by going to runningforreal.com/episode 369. You can also find links to our sponsors in there. AG1, remember that drinkag1.com/Tina. To Precision. If you go to the link in the show notes, you can get 15% off, or you can use code Tina Sent Me. And to Tracksmith, you can get $15 off your order of $75 or more, or you can make get free shipping and make a donation by using code Tina Give at tracksmith.com. I encourage you to check those out at runningforreal.com/episode 369. I will see you on Monday for a Together Run and next Friday for a regular episode. I'll see you then.